let's go. Now, you might be wondering, Gannon, you're kind of late, buddy. Why isn't the Star Trek review out already? Usually get out sooner than this, and I do, and I meant to. I set my alarm clock for 2 a.m. because I needed to get some rest because my goddamn job scheduled me at 6 a.m. So I was literally going to stay up all night and pull an all-nighter and go to work and then take a nap when I got home, but I decided to take a nap around like 9 last night, hopefully to get some rest before the review, and I slept through it. I actually hate myself for that. I'm so pissed, but it doesn't matter, okay? I'm here now. Kind of cruddy I decided to do that on like the mid-season finale. Speaking of the mid-season finale, I went into this episode with a critical attitude, okay? It is kind of crazy how we're already at the halfway point of this season, and I have a lot to criticize it for, and I also have a lot more that I'm like wanting as a viewer. When I heard that we were already at the mid-season finale, and not only that, we're gonna be on break, so they should give us like quite a decent episode before they send us on this little Star Trek Discovery drought we're about to have. I was so pleasantly surprised by this episode. I was actually like looking to dig into it. I mean, there was a couple things that happened this episode where I'm like, okay, I'm actually happy that the Discovery writers are deciding to make these decisions. Like, it's about time. I had to stop the review because my body was just like, hey, Gannon, you think you may need to puke right now? And I was like, hey, bud, I may need to puke. I don't know. You tell me. I didn't need to puke. I just needed to take a little bit of insulin, take some water, and take a poop. But now we're back. So let's just get right into the episode and review it. Today we're going to be reviewing Season 4, Episode 7, titled ... But to Connect. So there were two story arcs this episode. One, which I was very critical of, and the other one I was super satisfied with. I loved it a lot. One of them concerns Michael Burnham and Book. The other one concerns Kovich, Zora, Stamets, Culber, Adira, and Gray. First one that I'm going to go in and summarize real quick is the Michael Burnham arc plot. So basically, this episode started off with them learning about the location of the species known as 10C, except they don't. They get the coordinates. Zora extrapolates the data that they get from the void, and then she goes all HAL 9000 on him, is like, no, Michael, I cannot give you those coordinates. So they're very concerned, and that starts like an investigation that involves Kovich, but Michael then gets pulled aside by President Rillick and is forced to attend her assembly, which is made up of both the current Starfleet members and also the people that they are trying to get to join Starfleet, and that weirdly still includes Earth. It is very strange to me that Earth is separate from Starfleet, that they still haven't joined. The fact that that even happened at all in the Star Trek canon is absolutely wild. General Nadoya, she gets a rank increase, whatever that means, on the Earth Defense Force. She already seemed like she was kind of the leader anyways. But it's just so weird to me because when you're watching Star Trek, I know that the United Federation of Planets really has no official main body or official main planet, but you do get the impression from just watching Star Trek over the years that Starfleet is kind of like the humans and aliens come along to join it. It really does feel like Starfleet and the Federation are Earth. It does feel like it's them. I mean, Starfleet Academy was in San Francisco for the longest time, so it's just so strange that they're still not back in the Federation. The whole Michael Burnham arc is that Tarka comes and joins this assembly, and they're trying to decide what to do about species 10C. Are they going to launch a preemptive strike? Are they going to go attack them to defend themselves against the DMA? Or are they going to do a more Starfleet approach and understand that maybe the DMA is not a weapon? Maybe it didn't mean to go around and destroy everything, and maybe us just going and beefing with this seemingly superior race, that might not be a good idea. That could lead to the destruction of us. It could lead to the destruction of them. So they decide, hey, maybe we should do a peaceful first contact. But of course, this assembly is split up. You need to understand that in Star Trek Discovery, when you have a very important political assembly, everybody is allowed to show up. Everybody's allowed to say what they want. It doesn't matter. Tarka, Book, anybody is just able to TP into the room. Like, it is almost laughable how bad their security is when Tarka and Book are just able to look at me, I'm around all these important world leaders. This is literally the government of the entire galaxy right here. I could assassinate everybody in this room. At first, I thought it was going to be another very annoying political arc. Like, it just kind of bothers me sometimes when you see that the majority of Season 4, Michael Burnham is more so entertaining President Rillick's political games and kind of going along with her and being forced to sit in on political meetings and just like places where a Starfleet captain really shouldn't be. And what disappoints me about it is that Michael Burnham doesn't necessarily do any really good diplomacy. She doesn't do any good political things that impress me, something that Picard would. She just goes in there and Michael Burnham's it up and just gives kind of a talk no jutsu and steers everybody in the right direction, which was supposed to be her role this episode. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a boring political episode, when it turned into this amazing quarrel between Book and Burnham. It's crazy to me how much I don't like Book, how much of a shallow, non-existent character he is, but then finally in this episode I was like, Book has flaws. He's going against the grain. What happens in this episode is that Tarka just kind of TPs in on the assembly and he's like, yo, I'm an amazing scientist. I have this great idea. Screw having a peaceful first contact. These guys are dangerous. I have devised a weapon. This weapon contains, by the way, isolytic technology. It was banned in the Khitomer Accords, which is why they're reluctant to use it. It has the risk of blowing up a load of subspace. Also, if you destroy the DMA, if you go and kind of poke holes in it and f with it, it might end up causing damage on the other side, causing damage to the sender, and it might end up pissing them off. So the political arc this episode was really fun because President Rillick went up to Michael and was like, yo, you have to talk to him. You have to use your talk no jutsu to convince everybody in this room to take the nice first contact, the peaceful approach, the approach that they really should be doing. Meanwhile, Tarka is in the other room, like in Book's ear. He's talking to him and he's convincing him that this is the way, this is what we need to do. It's really, really cool how Tarka almost seems to be manipulating Book. And something that's crazy is we finally kind of got an explanation for the scar on the back of Tarka's neck. Tarka's backstory is very wild, but the fact that I didn't get any flashback, any kind of visual for it, leads me to believe that Tarka is lying to some degree. I believe that Tarka could actually end up being main baddie this season. Like, this dude seems slightly conniving how he's almost manipulating Book in order to get what he wants. And I'm about to tell you what he wants. What Tarka wants is the energy device that is being used to power the DMA. Only an energy device of that magnitude could help Tarka in what he's trying to achieve. Tarka kind of gave away his identity in this episode. Tarka claims that he's actually from an alternate reality. He's from a different dimension. Him and a partner scientist were looking for a way to travel to a dimension where all possible outcomes were great. There was no war, there was no burn, there was nothing to be concerned with. And they also made note about how Tarka used to be a part of the, like, he used to be under the authority of the Emerald Chain. Him and his partner scientist were definitely enslaved by them and being forced to, like, try and find a new power source that wasn't dilithium. Tarka claims that through their experiment, Tarka managed to escape, and he really doesn't know what happened to his friend. He kind of just thinks that he was left behind and didn't make it. Tarka says that he has to get to that dimension, that one where there's no grief, where there's no war, in order to see if his friend is really there, and that's the promise that he made to him. Which is the real reason Tarka wants to delete the DMA, and I honestly believe that if he didn't have some kind of vented interest in it, this dude wouldn't be here at all. Like, he wouldn't give a fuck. He wouldn't be trying to help anybody. He definitely is here for selfish, biased reasons. So Tarka's like, yo, Book, you have to go out there. You have to convince him. Your home, CRAAAZY, was destroyed. You have to tell them that we need to do this. We need to act before more people, potentially billions, die. So Tarka is kind of definitely manipulating Book to a degree, and when Book goes out there, you can see both him and Tarka's speeches to the assembly clearly show them appealing to the side of fear and trying to tell people, ooh, DMA, spooky, scary, we need to go and build a weapon and we need to destroy it. Obviously, that's super un-Starfleety, and the point where this gets really good, though, the part where this makes me so happy, is that this leads to this beautifully saucy scene of Book coming out, just TPing into the room. He's like, oh, I have something to say. Book's allowed to do whatever he wants because he's a victim of CRAAAZY. He's gotta be. Like, people feel bad for him. There's no other explanation for why this dude is able to walk around and do whatever he pleases. Book goes out there, he gives his speech trying to convince the assembly, and then President Rillick is like, is there anybody else who wants to speak? And she looks over at Michael because she instructed her to speak. Michael deadass waits like 10-15 seconds. Like, she almost doesn't even have the strength to do it, but she knows in her heart, she knows as a Starfleet captain, she's gotta speak up, and she does, and she speaks up, and she convinces convinces the assembly to not go with the weapon plan, to not go with Tarka's plan. She like goes and she talks to the assembly, but she looks at Book and she's like, I hope that after this, we can all continue to work together and move forward. And Book was like, sometimes you just have to deal with the consequences of your decision. And then I was like, yes, yes, yes. This fucking dude, Book's so boring. He's such a boring character. This dude never commits any wrong. I loved Ash Tyler. It's such a bitch, and it's so lame that they never mention Ash Tyler like anymore, like he doesn't exist. I liked Ash Tyler because he was troublesome. He was a flawed character. He's somebody who wasn't just this perfect little boy toy who just has a cataract. Like, dude, hope they break up. This is why I'm so excited, dude. I honestly hope Micheal and Book break up. I feel like they're probably going to like get along and reconcile whatever is gonna go on, but as you'll see after the assembly, okay, Book and Tarka, like I knew they would, they're super salty. They're like, oh my gosh, they're fools. How could they go ahead with this plan? Tarka then goes to the Discovery. I don't know if he goes to Discovery and steals their spore drive or if he just makes a little bit of a copy, but he basically gets a spore drive. He gets it in this little tiny compartment box. He pushes it into Book's ship and it integrates itself so that Book is now assumingly able to make spore jumps through his little ship. And Book is totally on board with this. He is like actually disobeying orders. He's going against the grain. He's doing a bad thing, like clearly a bad thing, and I'm so here for it. Finally, this dude isn't just Mr. Goody Two-Shoes anymore, who's just kind of like quarrels and cries and bitches about Quajon being gone and his relationship with Micheal. I needed this relationship to have like an actual good bump in the road, and this one was great. The way they wrote it out and orchestrated it in the assembly, brilliant. It was so good. Okay, now I need to talk about Zora. I don't know if I mentioned already, the assembly was really cool. It was awesome getting to see like all those different aliens. We got to see a new look at a Cardassian. We got to see the butterfly people, and there was this really funny scene where Micheal does this illusion to kind of talk about and describe the DMA, and she mentions caterpillars, and it pans over to the butterfly dude, and it almost feels like slightly racist to me. Like, I know he's a fictional race and all, but it's just hilarious the way they do it. Like, oh my gosh, of course you gotta mention caterpillars, you're gonna pan over to the butterfly dude. So the whole Zora arc this episode is that they are very, very, very scared and concerned that Zora is not willingly giving them the coordinates. They're like, yo, Zora, you're not following the chain of command, you're literally disobeying the captain's orders. This might be a problem. We learn from Kovich this episode that Starfleet actually has written policy on fully integrated sentient AI systems, so it's a matter of like kind of deeming and classifying what Zora actually is, and also trying to deal with the problems that they're having with her, trying to get her to comply and actually be a member of the crew. This is so good. For many multiple reasons, this arc was just like made the episode. For one thing, David Cronenberg's Kovich character, this was his episode. This was the Kovich-centric episode. He was there for the whole thing, and he was acting his ass off. Dude was performing like an absolute beast. I loved his open, honest way of communicating with Zora in the dialogue that they shared between Stamets, Adira, Culber, and him. It was just so great. There's this point in the episode where Zora's like, okay, I get that you guys are a little bit scared of me. I get that your apprehension is caused by the fact that you've dealt with like a universe killer AI in the past, and I totally get that. So here's what I'm gonna do. Zora goes out of her way to conjure this little device. She claims that it's a fail-safe device. Like, if I were to ever act up, press this button and kill me. And the only person who's like slightly okay with the idea of that is Stamets. Stamets is the one who has apprehension and mistrust towards Zora the most. Dira and Greg just come like waltzing into the room. Why are they able to do that? That's an ensign and somebody who doesn't have a damn commission walking into a room with the chief medical officer, chief engineer, the sentient supercomputer AI. This is a kind of a volatile situation, and the fucking director doctor of all of Starfleet, it seems like. Why are you guys just able to pop in the room? You guys aren't Neelix and Cass. Like, you guys can't just go wherever you want on the ship and it's like, oh, it's funny. Also, Gray leaves this episode. He actually goes back to Trill. Something I have to say about that is I am incredibly disappointed with Gray as a character. Like, I feel like people in the LGBTQ community are probably disappointed as well. Gray is leaving the show before they actually become a character, and I honestly think it's a good decision. If you guys don't want to put in the effort to find, like, actually give Gray dialogue and make them feel like they're a part of the crew and actually make them feel like a character, and you simply want them to be like this insert character that's supposed to elevate Adira, that's fine. I'm just happy that you guys are kicking them off the ship now and you aren't waiting to do it. It's just just like the better decision. If you guys aren't going to take the time to actually make Gray a good, likable character that is going to actually boost and bring value to this series, so many people have been complaining. It's not people who are just like being prejudiced or like, oh my god, why are trans people in Star Trek? They're starting to be so woke. Identity politics. Like, it's not even like that. It's just that Gray objectively is kind of a weak, weird character that they kind of brought in, turned into a synth. It didn't really do anything with them. Like, honestly, ever since Gray got into the synth body, can you honestly tell me that they've had like an impactful scene where they did something really crazy, changed the direction of the story, where they really came and put some skin in the game and helped everybody? The only thing Gray has done is kind of spoken with Zora like a little bit, and it wasn't even in a really crazy, impactful way. Gray is just such a hollow character, and it is so disappointing to see. It's just better that they're kicking them off. I'm sorry if that comes across as me being like prejudiced in some way. Again, I have no prejudice against any of these characters. I don't really have prejudice at all. Like, this shit's kind of beyond me. It's for stupid people. I just have to be objective and say that, you know, I'm extremely disappointed. Gray was always just like a shallow character. I wish they could have done more with them. I wish that Gray actually could have given some real good representation. The Zora arc was so good. Like, they ended the Zora arc with basically like Stamets giving clear, total candor, like absolute candor to Zora, all of his concerns, all of his fear, and then Zora basically goes and replies like, yo, I've experienced fear too. I understand this. I understand your reluctance, especially after dealing with AI, and all I want to do more than anything is just be a part of the crew. Then Stamets explains to her like, yo, we all want that too, Zora, but you need to understand that you cannot be a part of this crew. You cannot be with us if you don't trust us. And a way that you could show that to trust them is by actually being a part of the chain of command. And this actually leads them to come up with this idea of actually enlisting Zora as a specialist in Starfleet, actually giving her a commission and making her a Starfleet member. Therefore, she's bound by all the same rules that any Starfleet cadet or anybody aboard Discovery is bound to, except, of course, for Book, because this dude could do whatever he wants. And also, they find within Zora's, I guess, like code programming or whatever, this area of subconscious where she's actually capable of dreaming, storing information. I thought the dialogue and the writing between Zora, Kovich, Paul, and Culber was so fantastic. I loved every moment of them explaining what Zora was, what kind of entity she is, and it just made a lot of sense to me. It flowed off the tongue. It was 10 out of 10. I really did like the Zora stuff this episode. I loved it. It is what is giving this episode like a good score when I go to give it a score in a minute. But they just kind of end the episode with them establishing Zora as a new life form. She's not like just some other run-of-the-mill AI. She is an entirely new life form with feelings. She has a subconscious. She could dream, and she cares about the well-being of her crew. And honestly, it was so good. I love where Zora's going. I feel like we're going up from here, guys. I really do feel like we're going up from here. This episode like wasn't crazy amazing. Like, they didn't do crazy out of pocket stuff, but I am very, very happy and satisfied with this episode, just for a lot of reasons. I liked a lot of things that I saw. I like the direction we're going in, but I guess my last criticism and the last thing I will say before we wrap this up, it is so sad how we like saw Tilly today in some kind of Zora flashback. Well, they haven't even showed like a little snapshot of her at Starfleet Academy doing anything. I miss her. Where is she? I'm scared. I'm scared. Where is Tilly? I'm scared. Where is she? I hope she becomes an actual cast member again. This is just so weird. This just makes me believe that this is the COVID season and Mary Wiseman had to go to like some other country for a couple months and she wasn't allowed to be on these episodes. That's why Tilly's departure is just so weird and awkward and bad. I need some kind of IRL explanation for why this is being done so atrociously. And I know I said I'd make a video about Tilly. I've literally been waiting for her to like see if she shows up, and now that we're having this little hiatus between episodes 7 and 8, it's gonna be a perfect opportunity to talk all I want about Tilly, because she still hasn't showed up and that video is gonna be valid as hell. With all that being said, this episode did end off with Book commandeering a spore drive with Tarka. He is now kind of a criminal. He is going against all orders. He's going against all of Starfleet, and I really want to see how this affects him and Michael's relationship. Oh, I'm so happy we have like naughty Book and not just like a little bitchy, whiny, shallow Book. Like, I finally have been waiting for this, dude. Finally finally this dude is going to start feeling like a real character. But what do you think is going to happen? You think that Tarka and Book are just going to TP away and go and just, you know, shoot off? They're going to go straight there? Is everything going to be going at 100 miles per hour? I'm so interested to see what Species 10C is going to be like. I'm so interested to see what traveling outside of the galaxy is like. It's going to be so fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I honestly, my faith in the season is being restored. If they keep going up from here, I feel like we could actually have a good season, maybe? To make up for those first handful of kind of like mid-COVID episodes. This is definitely like the mid-COVID season. Can't even really say they're doing their best, dude. They just need to be doing better from here on out. This can be repaired. We could save this, guys. We could save Star Trek Discovery. It could continue to be a great show if it keeps on going this direction. And with all that being said, hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you so much for tuning in to another one. I'm going to have to see you after this hiatus. So if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like on it. If you're enjoying any of the content that you see on the channel, I'd be very flattered if you were to subscribe. Really trying to get 1,000 subscribers. We're really close, and if we do, I'm gonna get a neck tattoo. So if you want to see me potentially embarrass myself, be sure to slap that big red button. Also, join my Discord for discourse on the topics that we discuss on the channel. Please leave comments down below. I want to read what you have to say. I legitimately mean that from the bottom of my heart. Comments make my day. Whenever I get a notification, I get a little bit of dopamine in my head, and I'm like, oh, somebody's telling me about the video. It's great. Live long and prosper, and I'm gonna have to see you guys in the next one. Peace.